to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to another episode of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. Here, as I am joined each week by Josh Moser of WSVN 7, South Florida's #1 news station. Josh, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Busy couple days. Dolphins not doing so great, but I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm doing okay. And it was nice to see you on Sunday at the game. Nice to chat with you for a few minutes. That was fun. Yeah. I wish the game would have went better. But we're going to talk about all that on today's show. But before we get to that, a quick word from our sponsor.
The DolphinsTalk.com podcast network is sponsored by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a birthday gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive, Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? No worries. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home, and they'll ship it to you. International fans, too. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com.
There we go, Caneswear.com. Josh got a hat there showing off, Miami Dolphins hat.
Got right. Thank you, Caneswear.
All right, so 28-27, Arizona won. In a game, Josh, where the Dolphins only committed 2 penalties, they won the time of possession battle and went 11 for 15 on third down. They still found a way to lose this game. I would say, real quick at the top, this was a total team loss. It's tough to pin this on like one thing here, one thing there. When you have 2 penalties the whole game, 1 time of possession, and go 11 for 15 on third down, that means there's a lot of blame across the board how you don't come out in front and win this game. What are your thoughts?
Well, if I'm a fan, I'm saying the Dolphins are going to Dolphin. Here we go again. It's just like this is your moment, and then it's just another letdown. I think we kind of got to break this up. So let's start with Tua, because I think Tua was actually very solid. I think he was efficient in his return. For me, in his first game back, coming off of injured reserve and the concussion, I actually think he did a pretty good job from what he was told to do by Mike McDaniel. So I say it in that way for multiple reasons. Obviously, you're up 10 points. We've seen this again. You can't give up a lead. So to me, that's inexcusable. You had a top 5 defensive unit in the league, and in the second half, you let the Cardinals run all over you. Why did that happen? You just simply don't have a pass rush right now. You're really missing Jaylen Phillips. Obviously, not having Javon Holland on the back end allows you to not have as tight a coverage. So you said, Mike, a lot of things influencing everything. But the 2 things that really stick out to me, Tua was solid. The other thing is you have Tyreek with 1 target in the second half. That's not going to win you games, especially when you have a first half like he did. He was phenomenal in that first half. I think it was like 6 catches for more than 70 yards. Then 1 target. Like, what are you doing, Mike McDaniel? I don't care what coverage it is. You are supposed to put him in positions to be successful. And it's just really frustrating, really, to be honest with you. But this team sorely misses Jaylen Phillips. Chop Robinson, who some people were pegging as the defensive rookie of the year, simply has not really lived up to it, in my opinion. I know that it's a short sample size, but you're looking for an impact player right away. Calais Campbell has been that at 37 years old. He continues to be phenomenal, but you miss Zach Sealer. It was another piece that was very apparent. And now, Mike, as we approach the trade deadline going into this Bills game, where it feels like all of Dolphins Nation is Josh Allen's going to do it to us again. Now we're going to be 2-7, effectively eliminating the Dolphins from the playoffs. Will this team be buyers or will they be sellers? Will they make a move this week? Where's Bradley Chubb? What's the latest on him? So a lot of questions to be answered, and the blame is across the board, but you simply cannot let a 10-point lead slip away, and it's on a lot of people. And but just really rough defensive effort in that second half. Kyler Murray's great. He has moments where he can be special, but we know Trey McBride was going to get you. James Conner was going to get you, and that Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to get you. And all three of those guys performed. You want your big players to play well in games, and the Dolphins have better skill players, but it was the Arizona Cardinals in this one. And, Mike McDaniel, clock management may be an issue we can talk about. A lot of different areas. I'm kind of all over the place, Mike, so I don't know.
Yeah, no. Here's what I'll say. It's, the head coach had issues with the backup quarterbacks. Clearly, he wants to call one style of game. He really couldn't adjust to their style because he didn't have Tua. This game, I just thought they left a lot of plays on the field in the first half. They only have 13 points in the first half. I thought they should have been at a lot more. And I know there's some segment of fans who think, well, we scored 27, that's enough to win. Yes, but also Arizona is one of the worst teams in the league on defense. We should have had so much more. We left a lot of plays on the field in the first half. We should have had 20, 21 points at least in the first half. We didn't. And, you even have the referees on the mic scolding the Dolphins. Get your substitutions in faster, guys. I mean, this is like stuff they do at CYO basketball leagues. I mean, it's like the refs are scolding the coaches. Come on, guys, got to move faster. It's like there seems to be a problem with not only some execution on the field of the players, but execution on the sidelines as well, where it seems like something's just off. And it's just off by a little to cost them wins in close games versus teams like the Colts and teams like the Arizona Cardinals, teams they are much more talented than and should win. So I want to phrase this. If this season continues to go poorly, Chris Grier's on the hot seat, I think. I mean, he's been here 25 years. I know not.
Is he on the hot seat though? Like,
if he's not, then the problems in this organization go much further than I think a lot of fans think. At some point, you got to give some results. And his fingerprints are all over this. Mr. Ross does not know who the linebackers coach was for the Patriots when they hired Flores. Grier brought him to Mr. Ross. Stephen Ross doesn't know who the run game coordinator is in San Francisco. Grier brought him to Mr. Ross. And Chris Grier has drafted every one of these players, has his fingerprints on who's no longer here, who is here. At some point, if he's not to blame, if this season continues to go bad, like many of us think it probably will, that at what point are we just like, then, why watch? Why go? It's like it's never going to change if the same person in charge continues to get chance after chance after chance. But I guess my question is, I would say most common level-headed people would say he should be on the hot seat or there should be a conversation. Do you think there's any conversation around the head coach who just signed this long-term extension if this continues to go bad?
No.
Sorry. Okay. No, I don't think you're wrong on the head coach. I don't think you're wrong.
No. So, look, Mike McDaniel's the perfect head coach for Tua. You just paid $200 million. Those two are always going to be tied. So as long as Tua's there, unless at least this season, Mike McDaniel will be the head coach. And then if next season goes completely awry, then there might be some discussions. But this was year 3 for Mike McDaniel. You paid him, you gave him the extension before the season. This was supposed to be the next iteration, the next step. Unfortunately, you have Tua get hurt early in the year. But with everything else, you've taken a significant step back. But it's just the things that you can control as a head coach. The 2-minute drill before at the end of the first half where they had to settle for a field goal. The clock management
2 weeks in a row.
Was terrible. Again, like you hire people to help you with this. A friend of mine, we'll leave him nameless, but he now works for the Bears. Would be a very big help on this staff. And, Mike McDaniel didn't want to retain him because Mike McDaniel says, no, I'm going to do this. And he continually makes the same mistakes over and over and over again. And I don't mean to be harsh, but word around the league from people that I have spoken to is Mike McDaniel really cut out to be a head coach in this league? And
No, he's not. He's regressing. Each year gets a little bit worse. You want your head coach to move forward, get better, progress. We see regression with him year after year after year. And I know some fans like to hear that. They don't want to hear bad things about their head coach. And he's very likable. And he's, I get all that. But this is a results-oriented business. You either win or you lose. And what's his record from that Washington game last year? I think it was the first week of December, if I remember correctly. From that game on, what's his record been? It ain't good.
I mean, but you ask about Chris Grier. Remember, this hasn't won a playoff game in 20 years. So, like what is the bar? To me, this season was not successful if you did not win a playoff game. If you did not get a home game and you did not win a playoff game, to me, that was the expectation going into the season. You needed to take a step after back-to-back playoff appearances, and you loaded up on your roster. Obviously, injuries you can't control, but this is the NFL. Like, injuries happen all of the time, and somehow all these teams that have massive injuries somehow find a way most seasons to at least be in the mix. They may not be a contender, but they're in the playoffs. They're picking up a wild card spot. So you can talk about roster construction all you want. I think you have players on this team, that you should have enough to win you ball games. And for some reason, they are, in my opinion, underperforming. And that's a coaching issue. This is the first time that we've seen Anthony Weaver's group really struggle. I really think it has a lot to do with Zach Steeler not being there. I don't think Zach Steeler gets enough credit, honestly, outside of Jalen Ramsey. I think he's the most important player on this defense. But without him, there was no pass rush. That's why you saw Jalen Ramsey have to blitz so many times. And, when he's blitzing, there are a couple catches with Marvin Harrison Jr. that were just phenomenal. But, I mean, this guy's a rookie. Like, you got to shut this guy down. I don't care that he's a first-round pick. I don't care about, this is a guy that you need to shut down first year in the league. And you didn't. And you got no pressure on Kyler Murray. He did whatever he wanted to do, picked up the key first downs at the end of the game with his feet. Like, the blueprint, what they're going to do. And when you know what they're going to do and you can't stop it, that's a problem. I'm going to point out another player who was very good early in the season, which was David Long. And it looks like he's been battling injuries, been in and out. You paid Anthony Walker. You got this guy in. The guy didn't even dress, he was dressed. He didn't go in the game. I mean, David Long, multiple arm tackles broken through. Grabbing his wrist. He's obviously not 100%. But, here's a guy, you got to give him a shot. And we talk about it all the time, Mike. You paid Shaq Barrett, who retired, $1 million less than Andrew Van Ginkel. I understand it was a Lisfranc injury, and they don't like Lisfranc injuries in Miami. But that's one you got to spend the extra $2 million over 2 years to get him back. Then this team's competitive because you knew Jalen Phillips wasn't going to be 100%. You didn't know that he was going to tear his ACL. But we still don't know what's happening with Bradley Chubb. And how good is he going to be if he comes back? He's got it out in his contract this year. Do you trade him? Like, what? I don't know. What could you get for him? So it's just like everything that's gone wrong, continues to go wrong here. And then all of these draft picks, where are they? Where are these players? Cam Smith finally got in a game. He did all right. Devon Achane's been good. But outside of that, Channing Tindall is, not even sniffing the lineup, third-round pick out of Georgia. So it's where are your guys that are actually benefiting this roster and helping you grow? And that, to me, is a major issue when you traded all of those picks to get Tyreek. You've got guys that need to step up. Year one's a throwaway. Year two, okay, but that second year to third year, so where Mike McDaniel is right now, that's when you have to have your players from the draft play their best football. And that's how you win in the National Football League, because those players are still on the rookie contract. And now you're in a situation with Javon Holland where you're going to have to pay this guy. And love Javon. I hope that he stays. I know that he wants to stay. But, he missed most of the end of last season with those double knee injuries. Now he's had a broken hand. Now he's got another knee injury. It's just what are you guys going to do to actually get it done? Because going into Buffalo this weekend, I don't think anybody's picking the Dolphins.
Well, why should they? They've lost 14-16 versus them. Who would pick you got to have your head examined. But here's the problem, too. When they hired Mike McDaniel, which was great, they made the trade for Hill. They traded away a lot of picks in the rounds 1 and 2. They made the trade for Chubb, traded away a lot of picks in the early rounds, made the trade for Ramsey. That's a 3rd-round pick. And, they get caught for tampering and that punishment. That's more picks gone in the early rounds.
Yeah.
So those guys should be coming into – they were never drafted. They were never brought in. And the guys we just took this past year, Jaylen Wright, shows like he might have something. I know he got a log jam at running back, only 3 snaps. Is malpractice. It's criminal. The guy who's averaging 9 yards a carry on the 2 times you handed him the ball. Why you never give him another touch again? I'm not saying you got to give him the ball 20 times, but can you give it to him 5 or 6? 2's not enough. 3 snaps ain't enough. Washington, as a punt returner, looked like he had a little juice in him, little pop, which makes me think, I know he's been hurt at the start of the year, but he's been healthy the past few weeks.
Yeah.
Why was Braxton Berrios, who looks like he's running in quicksand, no offense, looks like he's running in quicksand each week, what do they see in practice that they keep going with him when Washington, gives you a little something more.
Yeah,
and now
DS
moving forward,
too.
moving forward, Odell Beckham has no receptions, and I know he's hurt, this, that, the other. Like at 2-5, don't be a progress stopper. Get Washington in there at wide receiver more, and let's scale back OBJ's. I mean, he's only out there for 11 snaps anyways. Let's scale him back a little more. Let's get Washington in the mix more because let's see. I mean, he might have had a good draft this year. And I know people are coming down hard on Chop. I'll say this about Chop. He didn't get sacks at Penn State. So I don't know why everyone expected he was going to come in and get like 8-9 sacks as a rookie. And for edge rushers, we saw it with Jason Taylor, which I know was a long time ago. Year 1, he kind of struggled. Clipped year 2. Jalen Phillips, year 1. I think he had 2 games. In each game, 3 sacks. But outside of those 2 games, he struggled more year 2. I'm going to cut Chop a little slack right now. I'm not out on Chop. No. But why is Muhammad Kamara not active at this point? I mean, I'm not saying he's got to be out there the whole game. He should at least be active at this point. Let's see what we got. Moving forward, I know up until this loss, you could justify this stuff. Say, look, we are only 2-4. We have a chance. At 2-5, I think you got to start having some tough conversations and be like, let's play the kids a little bit more to see what we got, get them ready for next year and beyond. So I hope some of those things we start to see. And when it comes to being sellers or buyers, first off, there's no way they should be buyers. But if they're going to sell, the list of players that are untouchable is easier to talk about than the list of players that are tradable. There's only like 6 or 7 guys that like are untouchable at this point. Everyone else make me an offer if I'm the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean,
Jaylen Wright, Jaylen Waddle, Chop, probably Hill I'll throw in there. Austin Jackson I'll throw in there. Zach Sealer, Ramsey.
Yeah.
I'll trade Poyer, Long, Brooks. I'll trade anybody else on defense. On offense, if anyone wants, Smythe, take them. I mean, who's not touchable? And I'll throw in Achane, not touchable. If someone wants Moser, Wilson, go. I mean, any of the offensive linemen, go. I mean, there's only like 6-7 guys that are untouchable.
Yeah, Teron Armstead would be an interesting piece.
Vikings lost their left tackle, just saying.
Raheem Moser, I think, is definitely tradable as much as I love Raheem.
The Cowboys or Chiefs, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of value. I don't know what you get for him. I mean, maybe
I'll take a 6 or 7. It doesn't have to be much.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can get a 5th-round pick for him. I don't know what your
6 or 7 works. It's all about stockpiling as many as you can get. Then you can move some of those out to 2026 if you need be.
But I mean, you look today. I mean, look, the Chiefs made a move bringing in a wide receiver. Just had the Ravens make a move bringing in Deontay Johnson from the Panthers today. So your AFC contenders are getting better. I understand that when you look at the AFC, you have the Bills, you've got the Chiefs. But outside of that, Houston just lost Stephon Diggs, who was also in the mix. The Ravens are obviously up there. But, filling out those wild card spots, those 3 spots, I think you can beat all of those teams right there. I don't think you're catching the Bills at this point. So they're locking up the division. But, I mean, you have the Jets twice, who are a complete mess. You've got the Patriots again. So that should be 3 wins, at least get you
Raiders.
to 5.
Raiders.
You're playing the Raiders here in a couple weeks. The Browns, I know that they had an upset win this last week, but, they're kind of a mess. I am not betting on Jameis Winston throwing 3 touchdowns, consistently. So, I mean, there's very winnable games here. And, but yeah, I think everybody that you mentioned should be on the block. I'd be very curious to see what teams offer. But then again, it goes back to the question that you had earlier. Is Chris Grier on the hot seat? Because if Chris Grier is not on the hot seat and he's coming back next year, I am selling all day long. But if Chris Grier is like, oh, crap, I better make some moves because I need to win some games here, else I'm going to lose my job, then that's a whole different situation. And I think that this game against the Bills is the deciding factor, because if you're 2-7, you're all but done. And then you've got the trade deadline next week. And if you're somehow 3-6, then all of a sudden, okay, let's see what we can do.
If they lose this game, they are I think 5.5 games behind the Bills with losing the head-to-head series.
The Bills could probably rest their starters all of December if they wanted to at this point.
Josh Allen right now has 14 touchdowns and 1 interception, and he just threw the 1 interception last week for Seattle. He's going to be the MVP this year. He's been that good. He's
owned the Miami. Come on, the numbers that Mahomes is putting up. Come on now, he's the favorite.
Pat Mahomes. I know heading into this past week, he had more. He still does. 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, Mahomes.
So wild.
Wrong side.
So
wild. That's nuts. And you got Josh Allen at 14-1. Lamar's got 17-2. That's actually a great year for Lamar. Yeah. Jordan Love, I thought after the injury was playing fantastic, but now with this second injury,
he's got the groin.
That's going to probably take him out of MVP. But Josh Allen's owned Miami, like I said, as just overall, even prior to Allen coming, they have won 14 of the past 16 versus Miami. Miami hasn't won there since 2016. That's what, 8 years now. It's going to take an act of God, I think, for Miami to win this week. It's a house of horrors for Miami. They just always lose there, and they're going in there shorthanded. Zach Sealer, Holland, don't know their status, even if they play probably less than 100%. Tua's never really – well, he had the one game there he played well, but overall struggled versus the Bills for the most part in his time in the league. It's a tough spot overall with where they are this season, the injuries, and where the Bills are, who can pretty much lock up the AFC East this week with a win.
Yeah, we're getting pretty darn close here. So they go to 7 wins. That's
with the Jets, Patriots, and Dolphins.
Oh God, it's scary, isn't it?
And they already beat the Jets once. They could sweep us after this weekend. I don't think they're worried about the Patriots too much. It's unbelievable. I thought this year compared to last year would be a step back for Miami. I didn't think it'd be this bad. Like a step back is still like the 6th or 7th seed in the playoffs, but maybe just not be as strong overall as they were last year. Because I thought last year's team, when healthy, was loaded, and that was their chance. Then all the injuries at the end did hurt them. I get it. But I thought that team, that was their chance if they could have stayed healthy. This year, it's just everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. Which there's some of that, which is just out of your control. But some of the stuff that's in their control is just, you see the same mistakes week after week, kind of. It's like clock management, like you said. He finally won a challenge this week, so I'll give him some credit there. It's been a comedy of errors, and there's a lot of blame to go around. It's not just one thing. It's a million little things with the blame. And if one week it's this, next week it's that. Next week it's something else. The week after that, it's like there's been just no continuity or consistency.
Yeah, but you have veterans on this team. You have a lot of pieces.
You're 2 Hall of Famers in Hill and Ramsey.
Yeah. I think you could almost – I think borderline Teron Armstead might be pretty close as well to a gold jacket.
In the conversation.
But, yeah, you've got people that have been there before. And, this is – it's just frustrating. I know the players are frustrated. I can't tell you how upset Tyreek Hill is. Tyreek is losing his mind. You talk about a player that's 7 straight Pro Bowls. No one's done it. No chance this year. Obviously out of his control. But to get 1 target in the second half of that game, I understand when you're losing, the microscope gets a little bit, more focused. But what Mike McDaniel is doing is just not working anymore. Whether you want to call it that defenses have caught on or he's overthinking himself, what we have seen from him is not happening. And that has to change. And to me, I don't really see Frank Smith calling plays. It's going to be Mike. And, we'll see. And again, we've talked about this. The Dolphins want to get the ball over the middle, in between the hashes, largely because Tua's not that tall. And he has said that, he really struggles seeing over the tackles on either side. I think Teron's 6'6", Austin Jackson's, 6'4", 6'5". So they want to throw the ball over the middle field. And the defenses have figured out, you take away the middle of the field against the Dolphins, you can beat them. So can they adjust? What are they going to do? All right, you got the outside zone, Jaylen Wright. But like you said, 1 series. So I just think that they're overthinking too much. There's something not clicking, and they kick us out at practice now, so we really can't see anything during the week outside of stretching.
That's the problem right there.
you know, and it's, you've got a padded practice on Thursdays that they normally go through. And, it's just, they just don't have the juice. You can just sense it. It's just a different feeling, not defeated, but it's just that juice just isn't there. And, at this point, I don't know if it's really worth the squeeze. I'm with you, man. I think it might be time after Sunday to start looking ahead to 2025. And then you can talk about drafting a quarterback because this team needs one.
Well, they need a contingency plan at quarterback because they cannot go through this every year where the guy misses at least a month.
Yeah, it's
and I know last year he didn't, but that's the outlier at this point. 2023 is the outlier. That's not the norm, and you need a contingency plan. And I don't know where they're going to end up drafting. We'll know about that as we get closer to the holidays, end of the year. But if they're anywhere near the top 10, or in the top 10, you got to make a move to get a quarterback. And I know people are going to say, but he's got no offensive line, and we have all these holes everywhere. I know. But if you have the answer at quarterback, look at Washington, everything else falls into place. And I'm not saying he's going to be brought in to replace our quarterback year one per se, but you need someone on hand ready to take over because the next time this happens with a concussion, and it probably will happen again, one of these times is going to be the last because at some point I think the league or the team's going to step in and say, we can't keep going through this with one player like this. And I know a lot of other players have the same issue with concussions, but his are different with the fencing and everything else. They're just different. They just are. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just his situation's so unique. And I think you got to have a contingency plan in place here because otherwise you're just going to punt another season and then you're going to be then looking for a quarterback and you might not be near the top 10 then. You might be picking 18th or 19th. That just makes it that much harder to get one. So I think if they're anywhere near the top 10, you got to make your move to get, if there's one you like, obviously, to get one. But that's a long ways away. We got a lot of time to talk about that. Yeah,
we can talk about it later, but I know from my sources that Deion Sanders really wants Shedeur in Miami.
Well, he said it on the show with Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco. He pretty much said, well, what's Tua's future with the concussions? I mean, he looked good in Miami, and he ain't wrong. Here, I know people don't like Sanders, didn't like either one of them, really, because they're loud and they're boisterous. He's the best quarterback prospect in this class. And no offense to Ward, because Ward's great. He might be the second best Ward. Shedeur Sanders is a fit for every style of offense. I don't think someone like Cam Ward's a fit for the Dolphins with their style, if it's still Mike McDaniel, that style. So I think there's some teams where Ward fits better than, say, Miami. Shedeur Sanders fits any style of offense. That kid is the best quarterback prospect in this class. I don't think it's close, and he probably will be the first one off the board. But if Sanders, the dad, pulls the power play, we ain't going to Cleveland. We ain't going to Tennessee. The Giants don't think about taking. I mean, he was the guy who went in for meetings with the Giants. He asked them, where are you picking? They said like 8th or 9th. He goes, I'm going to be long gone by then. See you later. And walked out of the room. He tells that's what he brags about. What do you think he's going to tell his son?
We're going to find out. I mean, if anything, Prime is going to put his kid in prime time and he wants the lights. So, I'm more interested to see in Travis Hunter. I mean, that kid.
He might be one overall, Travis Hunter.
I mean, it's just special watching him. And I got to work in Denver and covered a lot of Seed games, and the buzz up there is real. And, it's funny. I mean, this is a Dolphins podcast, but we're at the point where we're talking about other things and the possibilities for this team because that's where we're at. And I mean, it's just, you forget that this was the number one offense in the league last year. Pro Bowl year for Tua, multiple Pro Bowlers. And now, what a difference a year makes. And, I'm curious if they blow this thing up. I'm really curious. But I think a big piece when we go to practice Wednesday is to get an update on Chubb and see if he's even feasible of coming back. And he's got a contract out after this year, so that would put him in the trade conversation where they could save a lot of money. But, Andrew Van Ginkel just is the one that stands out to me. That was just a big miss. It
annoys the most fans because, of course, his wife's on social media going, we would have loved to come back, but they didn't make us an offer. That's the part that stings the fans. Like if they made him an offer, but he got more money elsewhere, fans understand that. It's a business. Got to take care of yourselves. They didn't even make him an offer.
It was because of the Lisfranc injury. And that's from Drew, his agent, 100%. The Dolphins just do not like that injury. And that's why Andrew took less money. But I mean, if he had not gotten hurt, he would have been a $15 million a year pass rusher. Remember, that's what they paid Emmanuel Ogbah. And then they cut him. They brought him back for $5 million. I think he's played all right. But, again, you need elite pass rushers in this league. And right now the Dolphins do not have one. and down Sealer in the middle to stop your run game. This team is blitzing like crazy, and when you're blitzing, it opens things up. So, when you take Ramsey off the corner, as good as he is at getting the quarterback and the pass deflections and all that, he's not guarding the other team's top wide receivers. So pick your poison. He can't be in two places at once, but you need a corner. And Fuller's held up. He's all right. But, certainly not Xavier Howard.
No Cater Kohu this week. He was injured. It's one thing after another. So, yeah, we'll see. Everyone, be sure to watch Josh Moser on WSVN 7, South Florida's #1 news station. Follow him on social media at The Mose Knows. Josh, we'll talk to you again next week. We'll see what happens in Buffalo. Either way, there's going to be a lot to talk about. Here
we go. The good and out. In for penny, in for pound.
That's right. All right, guys, everyone, we'll talk to you again after a while. Thank you.